at the community engagement strategies used by a corporate organization called Padenga Houti, that is in Kariba, in enhancing excellent stakeholder relationship. And in strategic communication, community engagement is a new phenomenon which is very important and which supports both the corporate world and management and also corporate governance, where we are saying in the 21st century, all firms and corporate organizations should be taking care of their communities, including universities. They should be taking care of their communities. And we do measure the success of a corporate organization through their input in bettering the livelihoods of their communities. And again, we are saying that as part of corporate governance, which talks about corporate responsibility, transparency, accountability, ethical leadership, you should be giving hand with an intention of bettering the livelihoods of the what? Of the community. And this exercise feeds to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, and to the Millennium Development Goals, where we want to do away with poverty. We want to improve the infrastructure. We want to improve food, and also the element of human rights that was actually talked about by the previous presenter. So in this research, there are quite a number of research from the global north. I'm talking of developed countries who have actually came up with literature, and they're dominating currently and guided by what we call King 1, King 2, King 3, King 4. And those who are doing business, they know that for you to be involved in stock and exchange, you should also exercise good corporate governance, which is part of corporate social responsibility, what they now call social performance initiative. And one of the core business is taking care of your stakeholders. And when you're talking of stakeholders, it's a term too big to talk about. There are internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. But for the benefit of this study, I will look at the community as the stakeholder. So in terms of the research, yes, in Africa we do have scholars who have actually written extensively with regard to corporate social responsibility, including Kenya. One of the key scholars is Methuri. He is dominating in terms of corporate social responsibility. In Zimbabwe, there are quite a number of publications that have been produced by scholars looking at corporate social responsibility. But there is a gap. They've been only looking at corporate social responsibility as the practice of the 21st century without actually looking at the community engagement and the element of inclusivity. And in strategic communication, we always say communication is very important. And we are not talking of the top-down communication, which is a challenge. Communication should be bottom-up. It should start with the communities proposing what they want to see being done to them, not the other way around where an organization comes with a program without consulting the community. And we are saying as much as we appreciate bottom-up communication, we also appreciate top-down communication, where the organization, through their management to fulfill the vision statement, mission statement, they then communicate to the ordinary citizens on their activities that they are doing with an intention of bettering the livelihoods of their communities. And we also talk of the lateral communication. Here we are looking at different arms, including the government, the NGOs, the activists, the think tanks, making an input to shape the policy and also to help these corporate organizations to improve their service delivery. So in terms of literature review, I had to look at community engagement as well as stakeholder relationship. I'm not going to delve into that because it will eat my time. And then in terms of the theories, I had to stick to two theories. The stakeholders relation theory, the one that says any organization, including this university, for it to be recognized and to gain the international muscles, and also if they are to partake in the stock exchange, they should care for the people who influences them. time allowing them to make an input, so that as the organization influences them, the community in the other way also influences the what? The organization. So there is reciprocity, give and take, which we call excellent communication. Not one way, but you exchange. It's dialogical, right? And then strategic communication, we are looking at purposeful communication. Communication should be purposeful. Communication should fulfill the organization mission statement as well as vision statement. So that's strategic communication. Here I'll be looking at the extent to which Padenga Holding in Kariba has been implementing corporate social responsibility programs within the community at heart to fulfill their vision statement, mission statement, but at the same time contributing to sustainable development goals and the Millennium Development Goals. Hence, the theme, the past, the present, and the future. And all of us, we should live in such a way that we take care of the coming generation. We know that some resources are so depletable. Some once extracted, you can't replenish them. If you dig something from the soil, is it easy for you to restore it? But there is another way of restoring it. Like you dig gold, then the next thing you should be planting trees, so that at least the future generation will benefit. So any organization worth noting and respecting should plow for the future of the coming generation, hence sustainability. Using the resources responsible in such a way that even the coming generation are likely to benefit from us. And then in terms of methodology, this study used the constructivism philosophy. And constructivism philosophy, we are looking at the extent to which words are being put together, signs are being put together. And those who did linguistics, they know that when you're talking of maybe the word corporate, there are certain syllables that are being put together, C-O-R-P, to build corporate. The moment you hear of corporate, mentally there's something that you imagine, right? And it's a form of communication. So constructivism philosophy, it has got that epistemology that you don't impose meaning to people. People should give meaning to what they understand, and they should participate. Hence the element of inclusivity, even in some of the programs that are implemented by Padenga Holding to improve the host communities. And then I had to look at the interpretivism theory. Interpretivism theory, we always say that a text is open to various interpretations. We've got the general meaning and the hidden meaning. If someone says you are a man, it's open to various interpretations. Generally, we are looking at a physical person with beard and muscles. But being a man, it may also be associated with abuse. Like in your presentation where you're talking about women being given the second citizenship status by men. So man on its own is open to various interpretations. And in research, we've got a theory called interpretivism. And then out of that, you find that I used focus group discussions and interviews. Focus group discussions with few selected community members from Mola and Kariba community. And I had to pick the influential leaders, opinion leaders, the villagers, the councillors, the chiefs, and I had to leave the general public, because why these ones? They are very influential in terms of policy making and they voice a lot. And I had to deal with 16 of them. We divided them into 8-8. And in 8-8, we had to keep them small because we really wanted to get more information. Out of 8 in a group, 4 were women, 4 were men. And the age range was 20 to 40. Again, why these people? They are very active. And these are the people who are very vocal in terms of change. So interviews were conducted with 4 public relations personnel. Why public relations? Because at Padenga Holding, these are the people who are on the ground in terms of working on the programs to be implemented. I had also to deal with the chief executive as well as the human resources, because these, they allocate the resources. Chief executive is the core, and he calls, order in that organization. And in terms of the sampling techniques, I use the convenience and purposive. And these are purely qualitative, because my study is qualitative. And I had also to stick to what we call descriptive case study. This is a descriptive case study. So now let me move on to the findings without wasting your time. In terms of the finding, we found out that indeed Padenga has implemented the community related programs that better the lives of their host communities. And these programs, they do so through what we call community engagement and partnership, where it's 50-50. If they want to build a school, they will ask a community to make the bricks, and then they will chip in with finance and other expertise to put that infrastructure. So we call it partnership. It's 50-50. And then they also use what we call donations. Donations where they give, and this is part of corporate social responsibility. But we do have the African scholars like Azekiel Nandi, Ake 1996, Mudimbe, you mentioned them, including Franz Fanon. They've been actually chastising this element of donation. And they liken it as having sex to an elephant, taking into consideration 3 risks. 1, you won't enjoy. 2, you risk your private part being crushed. The 3rd one, the results are not forthcoming. So because of these donations, though they contribute to the well-being of the society, but you find that we are crippling our society. Now they are less. They look forward to be helped, even in minor issues, that they can actually make an initiative. So as much as we appreciate the donations, but in a way, they also cripples our people. And then we realized that they've got what we call sponsorship, where they sponsor certain activities. It can be football, it can be the disabled community, they venture in. And so these are some of the strategies that they use to enhance excellent stakeholders relationship, that is responding to the needs and the wants of their host community. And then we also realize that Padenga Holding, because it's a large corporate world, which is so much into crocodile farming, as well as mining, gold mining. And through these initiatives, they are known, and they've actually earned themselves a positive reputation. In the corporate world, we talk of colors. They mean something. How big your organization, how much revenue they collect, and if you fulfill what we call King 1, King 2, King 3, hence also being involved in stock and exchange. And that's how we measure an organization. All organizations that are in stock and exchange, those are big corporate world. And Padenga qualifies. And apart from that, they've actually changed those communities that we have actually included here. And in that area, this community now, they are elitist compared to other communities where Padenga is not actually extending its arm. And the other thing that we also noted out of this corporate social responsibility, we also noted that there is an element of inclusivity, where Padenga Holding is not imposing itself to their host communities. They go to the host communities and ask them what is it that they want, and they go on to implement that. They don't impose themselves. Hence, bottom-up communication and lateral communication. They also give an ear to the experts as well as to the government and also the activists to hear what is it that they can do. Why? Because they know that what they are doing there, they also need what we call social license. Any organization should seek social license for it to continue operating. So these are the general findings. But however, we noted that as much as they are doing a lot, and this is probably part of the recommendation, we recommended that Padenga Holding should do what we call assessment and evaluation. I heard you mentioned assessment and evaluation. And in public relations, going to strategic communication, because strategic communication takes after public relations. We have got clear models of evaluation. You start with the preliminary measures, and from there it should inform planning. And from planning, you go to implementation. And from implementation, you go to evaluation. And I know at school, when we are talking of evaluation, we've got long assignments that we give to students. It's continuous evaluation. But the grade that they get, be it a distinction, first class, second second class, third class. That's what we call assessment, because now we're giving results. So we noted that as much as they are doing a sterling job to improve these communities, they've been not assessing and evaluating the extent to which they've changed and contributed to the Sustainable Development Goals as well as Millennium Development Goals. And we've also noted that at times they've got that tendency. You know, corporate world, at times they abuse us. If they are being entrusted and respected, if there is no check and balance of power, they might end up abusing you. So, Padenga Holding, to a certain extent, they end up abusing this community. But the community doesn't actually see that they're being abused, because that abuse is subtle, it's invisible, it's neither here nor there. But if you dig deep, you will then realize that they are abused in a way. So these are the recommendations that we've passed. And this is a big project. As we are speaking, strategic communication, currently there are 3 universities in Zimbabwe that are doing strategic communication. And at Midland State University, my PhD was in strategic communication. I opened a program on strategic communication. And there is a book that we are publishing with Routledge that talks about the ideal model of corporate social responsibility in the third world countries. Why? Because we've noted that the global south, in terms of strategic communication and community engagement, is still trailing behind. Something should be done. So there is a gap. Even those that have written about corporate social responsibility, they've been treating it as part of human rights, as part of corporate practices, without actually having the community at heart and the extent to which it can be included in putting up those infrastructure that can even